Hey guys, this is Mr.X and I'm just gonna show you real quick how to configure your SSF emulator. Alright then, ready? Great. Now obviously you might be watching this because of Shining Force 3 or Shining the Holy Ark. And this is basically me just doing some preparation, some research to get this emulator, well, basically to set it up as best as I can. Some background, I do have a 4-year-old laptop right now. It's a Dell. It has an integrated graphics card and a dedicated NVIDIA. Just to give you a context of what I'm working with. It is recommended that, well, I usually run OBS. Well, it really depends. You might want to run OBS on the integrated one, and then depending on the game, you might want to run that on NVIDIA, or you can actually just run both OBS and the game on the NVIDIA. It can pretty much deal with it. But in this case, what I'm doing is I'm running the emulator on the integrated graphics, and I'm keeping the OBS on the NVIDIA. You could argue which one is the better. To be honest, for this emulator, it doesn't really matter. Now, versions. So it's SSF, Sega Saturn, whatever. I don't know what the F stands for, to be honest. This is from a Japanese developer. It's non-profit, so you can just download it for free. I'm gonna put his site that he's been having for tens of years in the description below, and that might actually help you to get the right version, but I really recommend using version 0.12. It's a beta R3. That's not the latest version. There's an R4, but I've read on some of the forums and I've also experienced some strange glitches with it, so I still think R3 is more stable. Plus there's a test version, which I guess is kind of a in progress R5. I mean, the guy who's working on it, he's obviously said it's non-profit. He's probably a developer at one of the bigger companies, or well, for all you know, he might be actually a game developer or something. So he just does this as a side thing. Now, since I think like 5 years ago or 7 years ago, R4 came out or something, and we haven't seen a new release yet. There's this test version. I tried the test version. It does draw some garbage at certain points, at least in Shining the Holy Ark, and I couldn't find any compatibility settings that could counter that. So I guess that's just the way it is, and I've tried the same thing in R3 and it worked perfectly. So we're sticking with R3 for now, until whatever happens, but for now, I might actually change these settings, so I might have another video, or just I might mention it during my playthroughs if I changed anything, but this is what I'm starting out with. So BIOS, basic input-output system. For compatibility reasons, you might want to have it, because I'm playing, wait a sec, why is this? That's actually not set up correctly, because that's not supposed to be the test version, but that's supposed to be, well, you can't, oh, you can actually see this, okay, cool. That's supposed to be here, yep. So that was incorrect, although it doesn't really matter. I was just playing around with the test version. So BIOS, because I'm playing a Japanese game, that's the area code Japan, and the game is, I'm playing the Japanese version. I'm gonna play Shining Force 3 and Shining the Holy Ark with the original Japanese version. You might wanna, I mean, I think there are 2 BIOSes that I found. I'm not sure if, I don't think there are area-specific BIOSes. I do have only the 1.01, and there's a 1.00. I guess this is better. I mean, I couldn't really find much difference. Somebody who is more into detail with these things might know. And plus, I should have said this in the beginning, but disclaimer, I don't know much about emulating or playing these games like on a professional level. I just want to show you guys what I know and what works for me for these. Well, first of all, this is for Shining the Holy Ark. So this actually worked for me, and this actually runs the game quite well, smoothly. Plus, I can record this game quite well. So this setup works for me. Okay, back to configuring. So I'm gonna show you what you can configure in the BIOS later. It's nothing too major. Actually, I could actually show this right now. Probably. Well, yeah, why not? But then I will have to add a new window capture. And I want to put that to the emulator. Boom. Actually, well, I'm setting this up on the fly, so sorry about that. Very professional, I know. Fair enough. So you go here, file, nope. So you go to hardware. Stop, please. Let me switch these up a little bit. Yep. So first of all, let's reset. So you want to go to CD open. This is basically the BIOS. Loading in. Well, it's a bit slow because I'm running the capture card from well, I'm running OBS and the game from my integrated capture card at this point. Let's see, how am I supposed to do this? So display, boom, yeah. So what I can do right here is go into basically this one. This is kind of the settings. User StHA. This is the user settings screen, and well, here you can change your language. I'll just leave it on Japanese because why not? So this is changing the language. This is changing. No, it's correct. It's changing time. Well, it's kind of correct. I don't know how much it actually saves it. It doesn't really matter if you do this or not. There are some other settings. This is to show the help. I'm not sure what this actually does. Stereo or mono sound, obviously stereo. And if you want result sounds. Coca? No, it's effect sounds. Like basically sound effects on. Like, why not? And then you can go into some data management. And this is where you can change the data that is in your internal storage. As you can see, I still have my old saves that I did, well, quite a long time ago. I'm not gonna mess with those. And I also have a cartridge initialized where I have an even older save. It's just to show you what you can do. Well, you can copy from to the cartridge, you can copy to the internal one from the cartridge. You can delete one by one, or you can just wipe the whole thing, which does an initialization and just exit from here. Yeah, that's basically what I wanted to show you when it comes to this thing. So now, if you go back, you can just do CD close. So CD open to get into BIOS, and then as you can see, this has changed. It says game start, right? Game start. And if you go into that, then the game will start. But we don't really want that, so I reset. And back to configuring stuff. Right. So that's the BIOS. Quite useful. STV BIOS, you don't need it. I'm not sure. I think this is kind of like... No, to be honest, I don't want to talk anything. Like, I legit have no idea what this does, but you don't need it. Then you got the CD drive. Well, I have my CD. Well, I use Demon Tools. I don't have an optical drive on my laptop, so I just do have one. Well, you can't see us here, but I swear I just have one emulated one that works perfectly. I think you can use anything nowadays because they are all good, but I still would say D-Tools is the best. Cartridge doesn't really matter, just leave it on 4 megs. That's basically the cartridge. That's the external storage that you can set. You can go to none. You can go just normal backup cartridge, 1 megabytes, or RAM cartridge. Sorry, 1 megabytes RAM cartridge or 4 megabytes. I just say 4 megabytes. Why not? I don't want to change that for now. Area code Japan because I'm playing a Japanese game. You can say it to, well, actually, Taiwan, Korea, Philippines, America, Canada, Brazil, Europe, Australia, South Africa, or Japan. Data cartridge, I guess you can link something here, like another file from another system probably. I'm not sure what this does. I don't need to use it, and I guess you don't need it either. Screen. These are my settings right now. As you can see, I'm using my internal graphics card to run Sega Saturn, and that's more than enough. You don't need to put it to something crazy because it may not even be able to use all the functions. So I guess it's better off to leave NVIDIA to the OBS and then just run this emulator from your integrated one. If you run both OBS and the emulator from your integrated one, as you could see, my emulator got a bit slow, and I bet that's because it's just not strong enough for the both of them, but for just the emulation, it's fine. But you can just switch it up. It really depends on you how much, like, I didn't really play around with this too much. I think this works. As long as this works, I'm happy. So I suggest using the integrated one anyways, because you want to give as much processing power to OBS as you can. Auto field skip, I think this has to do something with synchronization. So you might as well just check it in. Otherwise, audio and video can get out of sync, and you can experience some crazy jittering of the sound. Oh, by the way, Scanlines, if you're into that TV-ish look, which I'm not, you can check that in. Enforce aspect ratio for window. I'm only playing this in a window, so I'm just gonna go for enforce aspect ratio. For the window one, this basically, I think what it does, it does not allow you to stretch the screen to some crazy resolution, which is fine on me. And by the way, actually I could just do it like this, couldn't I? Well, this kind of works. If you go to window size, I have it on double. Well, you can't see it because it's off. It's off the screen, but yeah, well, I usually do it on double. That's another thing you want to do. Double window size. Graphics, rotation, all these things you don't really need to mess with, so don't worry about those. Yay. Widescreen, just because nowadays it's all about widescreen. Why not? It just stretches, keeping the aspect ratio. It makes the game bigger, which is good if you're using an external monitor like myself. Even though this is grayed out, VSync weight, I can't seem to do anything with it. So I guess it is what it is in this version. Otherwise, if you can uncheck it, then uncheck it. I guess if it's grayed out, it means you can't change it. But even though if I remove all these check marks, I can't uncheck it. So it's whatever VSync is in. It might be something with my graphics card though. You might want to play around with that. You might be able to uncheck it, but then why isn't it there with the full screen one? Good question. Just leave it as is. It works well. Fixed window resolution, I guess, is the similar thing to enforce aspect ratio. Just leave it. It's fine. I'm not using full screen, so that's unchecked. Linear filtering, that actually smooths the whole experience, the graphic experience. It makes it less blocky, because this is a game, well, as you can see, this console is not, it's not the newest, 1994, 1995-ish, and the games as well were produced around that time, so keep that in mind. This linear filtering doesn't do anything amazing, but it still smooths the game a lot. So I advise you check it in, and it does take some processing power off. Well, it does require some processing power. So if you feel like your computer is not strong enough, then you might not want to check this in. Stretch screen, I guess this is similar to widescreen and full size. To be honest, I don't really see what these do. Just leave them checked in. That basically gives the best performance and the best look as well. Oops, that's not the right window. This is the right window. Sound. Well, in this version you only have linear filtering. I guess this is kind of makes the sound a bit nicer. Plus the volume is quite loud, so I just have it on 10%. And the buffer size samples, the bigger the better. If you have performance issues, just try to lower this. By the way, I read the README file. I read kind of a guide that the Japanese developer guy has on his site. As far as I understood, most of these settings are more like compatibility settings. So you might want to start out with the defaults and just try to add things and see how the game goes. Don't try to set up multiple things at the same time, because you just be quite perplexed of the effects, and you can't really figure out how you might have gotten to the result that you just got. So I think the best thing you could do is just to go one by one. If you can read Japanese, obviously it's easier, because then you can read the developer guy's thoughts on each of these settings, like I did. Still, even though I can read Japanese, I couldn't really understand everything, because he's just too technical, and obviously he knows the Sega Saturn in and out. So I'm actually guessing that he's an ex-Sega. It just crashed. I guess he's an ex-Sega developer, and yeah, the meter just crashed. So it just does that. I think if you leave it idling for a long time, it just crashes. That's no biggie. That is no biggie. Yep. Where were we? Controls. Easy, just click redefine as it is and just put in whatever you want. Don't be surprised if you click OK and you won't be able to exit from the menu. Just hit the X. What is that? on top of the settings window. Just hit the X. Don't worry about it, it will save it. Rapid controller, I don't use it, so just disable it. If you want to use it, good luck. I don't actually know what it mostly does. I guess it's for certain games. I just never got into using the rapid control at all. Now this is very interesting. So this one, what these do is, if you don't have anything ticked in here, that means that everything runs as one thread, which could be okay if you have a very powerful laptop, PC, whatever, but I suggest you do give it you do give these threads a separate instance. So flip thread, this has to do something with the graphics. I'm not sure. Most of these have to do something with the graphic. So I suggest you do tick all these, as I did. I think these are all about the graphics. Now the Saturn is a very complicated system, and I guess the best thing you can do is just follow whatever you want to follow, but I do recommend having different threads, because then there's less chance of blocking, obviously. This is also useful always running, because well, then again, I read the guy's comments, and it seems like that it's good. Like, just tick everything in that you think works and then test it one by one. And if the game still runs fine, then you're good. There's really small amounts of synergy when it comes to all these settings. So there are a few settings which work together with other settings. There are some settings that block, again, some other settings, and there are some synergy as well between certain settings. And there are just some hidden things, which I'm going to show you right now. So sound thread, obviously it's a good idea to have the sound on a different thread as well. CD block thread. I did experience some crazy glitches and lags and stuns if I have this CD block thread in, and you would say, well, yeah, it makes sense to run the CD, like the basically the input-output system, the main input-output system, because the game still reads data from the disk. So you might think like, yeah, it makes sense to have the CD thread separately. But believe me, it just doesn't work like that. And actually the developer guy doesn't even say anything about this. Like, I guess it's from system to system. Even though I'm using daemon tools, even though my laptop isn't the worst, but it's not the newest either nowadays. For me, it didn't work. For you, it might work. I don't know. Maybe if you're using a normal optical drive, like a physical optical drive, then yeah, why not? CD block no wait, as it says, not recommended. I don't use it. Scanline based timing. This is again some compatibility thing. You lose performance, but you gain compatibility. DSP dynamic recompile. I don't know actually what this does, but why not give it a chance? Priority class high. I do suggest setting this to high. There are the settings like normal. What's that? Normal, above, high. Okay. Well, I guess what this does is it gives higher process priority from your CPU to this emulator, which you might need, especially, well, in OBS you can also have a setting, kind of priority setting, but I think that's higher than SSF itself. So I suggest you set this to high if you don't want any stutters. And program 2, it's basically another kind of compatibility tab. So while this one is not really compatibility, this is more about threads, and it really depends on what CPU you have, how good is your system. You might want to check as much as you can from these, except scanline based timing. These are like some compatibility thing is, well, why are you calling me right now, please? Sorry about that. So these are mostly about compatibility. There's like these settings are mostly defaults. So I think the best recommendation I can give you is to stay with the defaults. I'm not completely sure. Even after reading the guy's comments multiple times, I'm not sure what he actually means by all of these. He's too technical, and he's not really good at explaining what each of the setting does. If you would read how the Sega Saturn works, you might understand more, but I don't think it makes sense. So I think sticking with the defaults is best, plus whatever differs from the defaults, have it like this. That's the best I can tell you right now. Again, this is compatibility. I found that this VDP2 RAM write timing works for me, at least for this game, so I guess this is fine. Yeah, check sprite priority seemed like something like occlusion. There is a kind of synergy with check cycle pattern and VDP2 RAM revision access. Again, these are just for if you see garbage on the screen, if you set up everything to your best knowledge and it still lags, you might want to try these one, like just turn one on, see how the game reacts. If nothing happens, if there's no change, then turn it back off, try another setting. But for now, this works for me the best. And these are less important, like secondary things. See the access LED, it's basically this thing right down there. Is it? No, it's this one. It's well, I don't have the cursor on this one. Let me just quickly check that. Cursor capture. Well, it's supposed to capture my cursor here, but it doesn't. Wait a second. It's fine. It's fine. We got this. We got this. It still wouldn't. Oh, there you go. It's somewhere here. One of these are the CD LED. I tend to uncheck it just because I don't care. I guess it's nice for some systems, like, or if you're running an optical drive, you might want to see that. Like, I guess the system LED did blink whenever it read something from the CD. So if you miss that, then yeah, you can turn it back on. I don't use it. No BIOS. I do recommend you have a BIOS. So please, hook backup library. This is definitely the cartridge. This is basically the internal and the external memory management system. So if you don't have this, then you can't see the cartridge or the internal memory from the BIOS. Enable FDD, floppy disk. Who the heck uses floppy disks anymore? But you still have the option. If you still have a floppy disk or a CD or a PC that has a floppy disk, you can save your save files to a floppy. Mesh translucent, and the interlace very slow. These, as far as I understood from his explanations, these are still experimental, in the R3 at least. They make the game slow. They should make the game look better and smoother. I didn't really see any difference, so I guess it's not implemented correctly yet. And emulate speed, yeah, you can. One thing I forgot on program tab 2 is .clock. Now if you have the .clock at 4, that is basically the emulations, well, that's basically the CPU process clock, which so .clock, you can set the CPU's emulation speed as in like hertz. Okay, so how many cycles can the CPU do per second. Now this, if you leave it at 4, that's the same hertz as the original machine. You can play with this a bit, but for me, the original one works best. Obviously, if you have a the way this works is if you decrease it, then you're basically increasing the CPU processing power, and by doing that, you're basically putting more weight on your CPU. Yeah, that's in your laptop or PC. I think 4 is fine. Even the developer says that there's really no need to lower this much. I mean, you can, but then, I mean, if you see problems with the game, as in it's running sloppy or sluggish, and if you have a lot of lag, input lag and stuff, then you might want to play around with this a bit. But I mean, I have a good enough CPU, so I don't have to. And when it comes to input lag, there's already lag in this because, well, one, emulation. Secondly, this, I mean, even the guy said this, that it's not completely possible to emulate everything perfectly. So there's always going to be some kind of lag, even if you're playing it on a gamepad or a keyboard or mouse like I do. There's always some lag. So just deal with it, but it's not much. It's like it's like 1 millisecond kind of. Well, it's not 1 millisecond. It's 1/60th of a second. But then obviously the more compatibility issues, the more processing power you put into the emulator, the more input lag you can get. So if you have a huge input lag, that might mean that, well, you have some compatibility issues and you might want to try some of the settings. You might want to try to lower the load that is put on your own CPU that is running in your laptop or PC. But that's pretty much it. And, well, we do have these settings. I do usually go for the defaults, and then I come here first. I click low compatibility fast, and then just try to do whatever I can to change and to play around with it. For now, as said, these settings do work for me the best for this game. I'm not saying this is what you should do, but for my system, this works. And I hope you found this useful. And yeah, this is just a short video, 30 minutes. If you have questions about some other settings, I might be able to guide you in the right direction, but I don't know much. I figured that people might actually ask me about the settings or where can I get this emulator, blah blah. I'm gonna pretty much put this video as maybe the last video of Shining in the Dark, Shining the Holy Ark playthrough, or maybe the first one, I don't know, maybe in between somewhere. It depends on if I get any queries or not. And then, yeah, this is gonna have all the information that I know as of now, but yeah, just go shoot me a question down in the comments. I might be able to give you an answer or just give you some guidance. I hope this was useful to some of you guys, and see you again. Peace.